couple last quick things before we get into Ricks versus Gricks and those picks. We love fired coach payouts here on this show. It's one of our favorite things to talk about. So I will ask you guys briefly, who has it better? Tom Allen with his $15 million buyout at Indiana, or NFL head coach Frank Reich getting paid $25,000 a day for 3 years to not coach the Panthers or the Indianapolis Colts?
It's clearly Frank Reich.
That's nice.
I'll take a steady paycheck.
I mean, doing the math, that comes out to what? Probably a little bit over 27 million. Let's do the math. Yeah, $27,375,000. And especially in this country where the median salary is $50,000, you're making the median salary every other day to not work.
Yep.
And possibly still get a job.
I feel no guilt to that guy, because that was the other thing that all these national pundits were coming out like with their condolences for Frank Reich about how he's the first coach ever to get fired in back-to-back seasons in the middle of the season. I'm like, no, fuck this dude. He is fine. You think he cares? You really think he cares?
On top of that, already.
If I got fired from my job today and they're like, Scott, we're going to give you $25,000 a day to not go to the grocery store to go to work. Okay.
If you get fired from the same kind of job twice in a calendar year, like you don't need to be doing it. You don't need to be
clearly not.
I will. So the last one I will ask you here: what is better then, fired head football coach, or retired baseball player who made a lot of money off of his name at like the last years of his prime? Because not only do you have my favorite player, Bobby Bonilla, still getting paid a little over $1 million every April, I think, every April or every May, to not be a New York Met. He is deep into his 50s now. Has not played in years, still getting paid $1 million, and he will be for like the next 10 years. Or Ken Griffey Jr., who next year will be one of the highest paid Cincinnati Reds on their current pay roster. He has not played in years. He's in his 50s now too.
So baseball, because people still like you. Like, you're not putting a bad taste in anyone's mouth like Reich is right now.
That's pretty true. I was big wrong about Frank Reich. I was big wrong. And you know what?
Should have had Carson Wentz as a backup.
We talk about Frank Reich, and not only was I wrong about him with the Colts, but I was very wrong about the Panthers. I thought that he was assembling a great coaching staff. I called them the Avengers of coaching staffs, and it was more like the Zack Snyder Justice League.
Who's the interim?
It is somebody, their special teams coach, I think David Brown or something. They have a good defensive coordinator who's a head coaching candidate in Ijiro Evero, who I'm assuming did not want the interim job because he didn't want it to ruin his candidacy for like other head coaching jobs, because it's going to be shit. That team is wildly bad. And the team has been wildly bad for years now, through the Matt Rule experiment to whoever took over for Rule after that. And
Steve Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes, and then Frank Reich this year. And I want to ask you guys now in this final thing of Dan Snyder is out. He's been out. Thank the Lord. Every time we can do that, boom. Who's the worst owner in the NFL now? Because I think there are two great candidates from this past week, and that is David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, who gave us this incredible press conference sound where you can put down your number one overall pick quarterback.
No, it's been reported, and we talked about it. Originally, we were going to go to the number 2 pick, and we thought we would get CJ because we thought the Texans were going to pick Bryce. And listen, we preferred Bryce. He was our number 1 pick. We had a lot of conviction. But in answer to your questions, it's just not the way the process was done. The process was done the way the process was done. And again, even though if there was a process with 5 people in the room and the way the votes came in, Frank was the first choice, I always could veto that choice. And even if it was Bryce and the votes came in unanimously in this particular case, I could have vetoed that choice. In both cases, I supported both choices. Okay? I'm just going to say that I supported both choices. I supported the coaches. I supported the scouts, their unanimous opinion. And I supported Frank Reich. So whatever's good, bad, or indifferent is ultimately because the buck stops here, and I take full responsibility for everything. But that's the way the process runs. And just one last thing, and then we're going to go here. As far as Bryce Young is concerned, I cannot say this, for myself, and I think everybody in this building would share this sentiment. We are totally confident in that pick. Okay, I think the people that made that pick first, would be totally confident in that. Some of them you could ask. Okay, and I think and for me, I'm totally confident in agreeing with that pick.
You love the PR moment at the end when he realized he shit all over his first round, his number 1 pick quarterback, and then
what
has to go
message
back.
did you get out?
He contradicted. He contradicted himself within 2 sentences. Like,
it's why I argue owners shouldn't be giving press conferences. You don't need to do that. That's why you have to
do it more. That was great.
Well, see, and what's even more frustrating with Dave Tepper is the fact that he was a minority owner in Chicago with the Bears. So you think he would have learned something there, and
he learned something. All right,
he's a fucking idiot. It's like he made his money being a hedge fund manager. One of the skeeziest things that you can do in life is doing that shit. That's how he made his money, and now he's running a franchise into the ground. Like, he clearly shows complete just idiocracy on how to manage a football team. You had a head coach in your building and you didn't sign him, and now we're in this mess.
And I mean, you can argue that the team was questionable before he got there, during the end of the Ron Rivera era. But the team is like you said, completely gone to shit ever since, in terms of how they've tried to pick out quarterbacks with, going through Cam Newton. They cut Cam Newton twice. Teddy Bridgewater era, Andy Dalton gets in there. Now you're about to ruin Bryce Young, even though I don't know.
Matt Corral got hurt in 2 preseason games.
Right. And you're already launching, that it's very early, but we're already in that era of, I definitely would have taken CJ Stroud. I wanted to take him, but everybody else, he throws everybody under the bus to say, hey, no, they wanted Bryce. And I'm cool with it. I'm cool with Bryce. He sucks, but I'm cool with him.
And then Slowick would have made Bryce look good, and then CJ Stroud would be wasted in Carolina.
Exactly. I don't think it would be any better. So you have candidate number 1 of David Tepper, or candidate number 2, veteran owner in this league, has had a questionable past, to say the least. And he's also the previous boss of Frank Reich, and that is Colts owner Jim Irsay, who has been having a time on Twitter, or X, lately, especially after he goes on HBO Real Time or Real Sports, whatever, and talks about his past arrest. He was arrested for a DUI years ago when it came, getting caught with drugs. And, he said he was being prejudiced against, by the police for being a rich white millionaire or something. Yep. Yeah. So he throws that out there. Stephen A. Smith and the First Take crew, they tackle that. They go off about it. He did not respond to it kindly. And he had a series of great tweets on X, or X's. I don't know what you call them now. Either way, I'm going to read them for you. And because I have to read to you, I have to play this music. Trustway punts to the sky. Durant gets twice as high. Let's take a look in the Chromebook. Reid's Reading Rainbow. I can go anywhere. Trade rumors to know
top 5s to grow. Reid's Reading Rainbow. I don't know if we have licensing for this theme song. Let's take a look in the finance book. Reid's Reading Rainbow. Reid's Reading Rainbow. Reid's Reading Rainbow. Reading with a I, like R-E-I-D. Reading Rainbow. Get it? Like my name.
Yes, this is Reading Rainbow, where I will read to you, the audience, and my co-host here. And I put on my imaginary reading glasses because I can't find my actual glasses anywhere. So here we go. From X and at Jim Irsay. This is from November 22nd. His first tweet was, first take, you're going to get your ass sued because there was no alcohol, no illegal drugs, / $29,000 is low for me to be carrying in my car, I guess. He's a bad writer on all this shit. 2014 arrest. I give away $2,000 to $10,000 to the homeless and needed on the street all the time and pass it on, making the world better. Heart emoji. And he followed that tweet up with another tweet to clarify. And on first take, the woman that preceded Stephen A., how dare you pretend to know me? I don't know your name and I don't care to, frowny face emoji. If my black mother Dorothy was still alive, you'd be in some big hot water. You are mean and ugly. You're a nothing burger. Confused face emoji, which I think is the same emoji we would all use when Jim Irsay tweets out, my black mother Dorothy. He then clarified that tweet because it needed some clarification, followed up with one final tweet of, Dorothy Bloodsaw was my black mom. She carried me in the house in Lincolnwood, Illinois on 1959 June and raised me in the light of Christ, prayer hands emoji. I would be dead if not for her unconditional love. She showed me that Jesus was my savior. I owe everything to her. His black mom, Dorothy. I'm going to start referring to Mama Murphy as my black mother, Cynthia.
What in the color purple is he saying? What the fuck?
The copyrighted color purple.
Right? What the fuck?
Jim Irsay was the one owner that the NFL could roll out to fire out against Dan Snyder last year. He was looked at as a hero for a little bit because he was the only owner that Snyder couldn't dig shit up on because he puts it out there like this. The Colts have been kind of a dumpster fire outside of the times that they got generational quarterbacks in Peyton Manning and then Andrew Luck before they ran Andrew Luck into the ground so much that now he just dresses up as a Revolutionary War veteran.
Hey,
on Thursday Night Football sometimes.
Don't hobby shame.
It's not a hobby shame. I'm not hobby shaming. I love the guy. He's got a book club and everything. He's a joy. He got away from the Colts. So I will ask you guys now, who is the worst owner in the NFL? Jim Irsay, David Tepper, or somebody else, Zoo?
First off, I'm going to say that Irsay needs to borrow the AI that Magic Johnson uses for his tweets. Because there's no way a robot isn't typing those up. Yeah, I'm going to give it to Irsay. Because he's at least consistent with how bad he is and how entertaining he is, especially with Dan Snyder not in the picture. I thought his competition was going to be... why am I forgetting the Tool's name in Dallas? Like, I'm watching the game right now. Jerry Jones.
Oh, Jerry Jones, yeah.
But he's winning, so I could only compare that so much. So, yeah, Tepper is definitely fighting for that spot, but I think Irsay has a good handle on it right now.
For some reason, to me, Scott, Jerry Jones works. I don't know why. He's an asshole. He's a gross old man and, has questionable, stuff involving racism in the past, but that was also 1950s Oklahoma or wherever the fuck he was. Like, of course, of course you're going to be slightly racist. And
have you seen that haircut from back in the day? You remember that picture?
I think David
seen him
Tepper
kissing his brother after a big play.
Hey, easy.
Whoa, wait, what was that? Wait,
you haven't seen that?
No, he kissed his brother.
Yeah, like in the box office, there was a camera shot of like them ignoring their wives and like giving each other a smooch.
I'm not Googling that and gonna put it on a list somewhere.
I feel like
send you
that's
the link.
I feel like that's improvement over the time they found a quotes alleged sex worker under his table in his box office.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know. That was a little more questionable. But Scott, who do you agree with Zoo on Irsay, or do you want to go a different route?
They're both. I think Tepper. I'll put Tepper before Irsay because I think Irsay, like he's kind of like the guy who should clearly be canceled, but you can't because he tries to cancel himself. So you can't cancel somebody who refuses to be canceled, like somebody else we might know in certain situations. But honestly, I think I'd probably put Michael Bidwell ahead of everybody, the Arizona Cardinals owner. He is just a terrible human being. I've heard of horror stories coming out of that Arizona camp between, accusations against him and then players coming out against like the facilities and how they're ran, that they even have to still pay for their own food at the facilities. And then seeing how much he just squandered all the talent that he's kind of been given at this point. I mean, he's only been around since 2019, so he just newly took over. But I mean, he's been in that organization forever, so you think he would know how to do. But
I think the Chargers. I think Chargers fans would always argue their owner Spanos is one. Thanos, or I mean, Detroit Lions fans have been begging for their old owner, that 400-year-old Martha Ford. They've been rooting for her to die. I mean, look at Zoo fist pumping at the thought of it.
I was rooting for the Seahawks touchdown.
Dude was fist pumping for an old lady's death.
No.
I mean,
touchdown.
I'd be okay with even like
Fuck Bland.
the Chicago Bears at this point with what's her name, Virginia Hollis, George Hollis's daughter.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even know what they're doing in Chicago anymore. I've given up all rationale with them.
That's who Tepper learned from.
Either way, old rich white people.
But you know who's not on that list?
Oh,
Josh Harris.
yeah.
The fucking Commanders!
Oh, and Magic Johnson. I'm glad you brought up Magic Johnson's tweets. One day we'll have to go through that of just like top 5 Magic Johnson simplistic AI tweets that he's been
trying to get my robot voice going.
He has been on AI tweets like for years. Like
Chat GP tweet.
GP, shut up.
I got one.